Keep talking. You can keep talking.
In downtown Milford, we always give people a couple extra minutes to navigate the one-way streets. Find parking. Downtown. start. Okay. Good afternoon, and welcome to the First United Church of Christ Congregational here in Milford, Connecticut, whether you're in person or online, for this sampler of Dave Gregory's poetry. I'm the Reverend Adam Eckhart, and along with Reverend Ashley Grant, we are the pastors of this congregation. Just to point out the furniture behind us, we have these chairs here because during the season of Lent, we are celebrating reconnecting with an unhurried God, and so I guess there's some appropriateness then in coming together and listening to poetry, which for some people feels too unhurried, but for those of us who are here, hopefully it's something that we appreciate and savor together. I know I am going to savor it. We hope that you picked up a program and maybe a sampling of the chocolates before listening to the sampling of Dave's poetry. M. Craig Barnes contends that the true calling of a pastor is to help others become truly alive, to be a minor poet or a poet of the soul. So it is that Ashley and I would be minor soul poets, appreciate real poets like Dave. He is a real poet who practices his poetry daily and with all of his heart. He has grown up and been anchored in this Milford community and loves it enough to speak of it and to it through his art. I think I remember him first and foremost for his cellar door Christmas poems, his ability to bring history alive, and for his generally creative observations that he brings to his poetry. We are proud to have Dave as a member of this congregation and as a colleague in poetry, sharing some of his new creations here with Ashley and me, and letting us occasionally share them with the faith community. And so it is that First Church is thrilled to host this event this afternoon, to enlist longtime member Patty Weller as a fellow poetry reader. And we welcome you and hope that you are edified by this time together. So now I turn it over to Dave himself.
Hi, thank you, welcome. I'd like to thank First Church and Reverend Adam and Reverend Ashley and Patty for this event, whatever it will be. First and most important, bathrooms. Where are they and how do I get there? If you're not familiar with the building, you go up the aisle as if you just got married, and gentlemen, turn to the left. Stop after you go through the first door. Gentlemen to the left, ladies to the right. Walk toward the walls, go past the stairs to the balcony, and before you hit the wall, you'll see a little dog-leg staircase down, and the men's room and the ladies' room will be there. For the people at home, you're on your own. What happens now is a sampler of my prose and poetry. I have picked examples that show the variety of things I write about and blend that with some of my favorite pieces. The pieces are secular, though several have been read here. By the way, if you haven't got them, I put some of the writings in 2 books, and I found out that they came out nice. That I was more surprised that they came out as well as they did, and I also discovered I'm not a great salesman. So I had extra, and please, they're free, take them, or if you want to throw a couple of bucks in the basket for some of the good deeds the church does, that's fine too. The object of the event is to have us here together, one-on-one, relaxed, so you're hopefully entertained. I'm not sure, but this covers a range of around 2003 to 2023, so about 20 years. This is just a sample. Before each one, I'll insert a little narration as to the background that drove the idea, and so we begin. I try to do something with my writing every day. If there is no great inspiration, no idea that festers in my mind, I need only to look out through the windows, look outdoors.
I give you a garden. I give you a garden bustling with blossoms, as long as wide as your spirit will take you. It will be hidden for you or open to the world to enjoy. This garden will be maintenance-free unless you enjoy playing in the dirt. Water will run through it, babbling brooks and fountains galore. There will be sun everywhere except where you need shade. All seasons will collide, bringing out early visitors, blending them with the normal seasons, and everything waits for the late bloomers. Paths will wander through manicured beds, and chaotic collisions will be blocking the way. Benches will be wherever you are tired, a place to listen to the thunder of nature. Birds and butterflies will inhabit, pose, and sing for your entertainment. The selections will be universal, perennials with annuals jumbled about. Shaded trees will cluster for your comfort, darted with chairs, hammocks, and daydreams. All the colors, all the ages will be represented. The glory of yesterday to the hybrids of today. A bridge or two will pause on at midnight. Your reflection in the moonlight appears. Wind chimes and spinners mixed with fragrance. Solar lights, colors changing, while daytimes rest. I dare not name all the contents, for fear I will forget one. Be content that it will be consistent and universal, with blended colors beyond the rainbow. Despite the vastness of your garden, you will be safe and content. A willow, a maple, a rose, and a weed. Mist in the morning, sunlight throughout the day, moonlight for the evening, and rain overnight.
When my kids were old enough to read, I put a keep out sign on the cellar door when Santa's helpers stored, assembled, and wrapped presents for Christmas. Somewhere along the line, the notice turned into a poem, something with the flavor of the season and a warning of some dire disaster if they peaked. I started saving the warnings in the 90s when both kids were in college. Then I sent a copy with our Christmas card and to about 25 friends and family. The next year, and for 20 years, a dear friend surrounded those warnings with beautiful graphics and photography to make the words say more than they did. Today, I continue the process using seasonally decorated paper. Thanksgiving morning, the warning is taped to the cellar door, and a couple of weeks later, it's put in the envelope with this year's cards. Here is a sample.
On the cellar door, 2013. For most, it starts in autumn. The first chill brings a warning warmth as we harvest our bounty and celebrate our Thanksgiving. We plant the seeds for the next season. Fields of life are leveled. All the players come out of hiding. Lists and wishes are expressed. Red and green suggestions begin. They blare out from the television. Sugared cereal is replaced by new gizmos. Somewhere, a starter's pistol fires, and the race has begun. Get to the store, get to the church, buy the tie, buy the story. Wait, 2 stories, and all kinds of miracles. Climb into the attic and load down. Spread the lights and trimming all around. Visit the Nutcracker and Santa. Fill the closets and the cellar. Put up the warning. Angels and elves are watching our hopefully unselfish giving. there may be something for you. It may need some tender assembly. Batteries might have to be added so it can whistle and wink. Then it must be covered with color and ribbon and bows and tape. Your job is to stay away. Behaving and helping couldn't hurt. But if you don't watch out, your favorite color won't be there. Perhaps chewing gum and manatees will infest your hair.
With the following, I had an idea, and when I found the rhythm, everything came into place, and I figured out the ending only a few verses before I got there. It's called Lonesome Sailor. He ran away from nothing, a life that was failing him. There was no love, punished for being at the table, taking up valuable space. He first just ran away from the house, the town. When he stopped, he was alone, barely in his teens. There was no master plan. First, there was survival, how to eat and stay warm. But there had to be more. What was going to have meaning, not just what would he do tomorrow? No, he needed more. That night hidden from sight, he felt safe, and he slept. And for the first time in a long time, he dreamed. The next morning, he held on to that dream. Now he headed towards something, determined, stepping lively. He was moving, walking along the side of the road, getting a ride in a wagon, working for meals and a few coins, heading east, always east. Each hill spilled into a valley. It seemed never-ending. Finally, he came upon another hill to climb. But now his footsteps quickened. Weariness fell from his ragged shoes. He was climbing, and he could smell it. At the top of the hill, it laid before him, as far as he could see. The ocean, the sea. Down the hill, through the seaport town, to the docks, the smells, the chaos. Ships headed down the coast, ships bringing goods across the ocean, ships setting out to catch fish, whales, ships rigging crates, owners and sailors. He was drunk with awe and happiness. One of these ships would be his home. Whatever had to be done would be done. At first he was pushed away, ignored, but this time was his time. Now, no stopping him. Finally, he found her, the Cathy Ann. She was rather a small ship. She was rather an old ship. She was not in good repair. Still, her masts were tall and straight, and those walking her decks seemed content. He presented himself at a table at the foot of the gangplank. With a boldness beyond his years, strengthened by the miles he traveled, he asked for a job on the Cathy Ann. The three men sitting at the table paid him no mind. They were talking business, and the boy didn't exist. Near tears, he slammed his fist on the table. The three heads turned and looked at him. With all the hate and frustration inside, the boys again asked for a job on his ship. Smiles came down on him. Your ship? Yes, I've come a long distance, and it was this ship that called me. What about your parents? Do they know you're here? Do they know you've come to your ship? They don't care, and I'll work hard. These three men kept their smile. We do need a cabin boy. Interested? They would pay him for doing what he wanted. Yes, he would learn what to do. Yes, he understood it was hard work. Yes, he knew he would be at sea a long time. He made his mark. He was ready. He was a member of the crew of the Cathy Ann. And so it began, this life of a lonesome sailor. The following morning on the high tide, the Cathy Ann set to sea with a full cargo. She was headed for the Bahamas. There she would sell her goods and then take on a new load and bring it to a new port. A cabin boy is the lowest of the low. There was no one lower on the ship. The captain was a fair and patient man. He taught his crew how to work together and explained to those who didn't know what he expected of them. The cabin boy got his sea legs quickly, learned what was expected, and did it. He fetched, delivered, and cleaned all of that, always the one on call and proving himself reliable. When he was able, he listened to the old-timers. He absorbed the salt from their stories and carried on. When they reached port, he hung close to the ship. After a time, he found his voice and asked questions. The butt of a joke or two, he handled it well, and the crew accepted him and took them under their wing. Most spoke kindly to him, and more importantly, some befriended him. As the ship moved on, port to port, he took on more responsibility and seemed to have a natural calling. With the hard work came physical fitness. With the friendships came knowledge. Never had he had such a wonderful education. Days flew and months matured him. Now a year and no dirt crossed his path. With care he expanded his world. He ventured into towns he had never heard of, streets and ports around the world, and his knowledge and his seamanship grew. It was more than 2 years at sea before the Cathy Ann returned to her home port. The lonesome sailor strode down the gangplank. He was almost unrecognizable to the three owners. They sat at their table and greeted each member of the crew, handing them their shares for a job well done. Some nodded and walked off, never to return. Others signed on for another tour. One of the owners asked the cabin boy, "How was your time at sea? How were the adventures on your ship? Would you like to sail on the Cathy Ann again?" I would like to sail with her, to feel the breeze in my face at dawn time, or study the stars during the night watch, smell the water and hear the ship. The Cathy Ann talks to me and she believes in me, but I'll not go again as a cabin boy. The owners nodded their understanding. None had ever been a sailor. They spent their lives in banks and offices. Still, they knew the value of a good man. The captain had already talked to them. Here was the newest sailor on the Cathy Ann. Off again and off again on the high tide, full cargo, whether fair, whether foul, learning his trade and doing what was asked and more, listening to the old-timers, heeding their advice, working hard with no complaints. Still a loner, though, thoughts quiet inside him. Now an old hand, he had his chances to move on, but he loved the Cathy Ann, and she loved him. They were flawed, but their love grew strong. His craft strengthened still. He moved up the ranks, eventually an officer, leadership by example, harsh words only to be heard above a storm. Only once was he unhappy on his ship. Needing a cargo out of Cuba, they took on a short run to Charleston. There were no crates to be lifted on the decks, no sacks to be lowered into the hold. The cargo walked aboard and smelled of fear. Offloaded from a big ship out of Africa, these were people of flesh and bone, men, women, children, pushed into the hold, so many cattle to be delivered, to be sold. He understood their language, but not their words, and those in charge of them held his disgust. It was hard for him to understand someone missing home. Their skin color was darker than his own sunburned complexion, but he never missed where he came from. He was lonesome, perhaps, but now a loner, too. His ship was his family. Each board, each hank of rope, no tender flesh walked a widow's walk for him. With a cargo put ashore in Charleston, he waited for what would come next. For the first time, he thought of leaving the Cathy Ann. But cotton was loaded on its way to England. No more cries of anguish, just cries to set sail, to haul away, to pull up anchor, to sail on the high tide. Comfortable climbing the rigging, securing the cargo, enduring the storms and the doldrums, our sailor, our officer moved across the world. Faces changed, new men, he learned from them all. What not to do from some, what to do from most. And he never missed what he never had. His world covered the wide world, but his world was quite small, judged only by how it affected him and the Cathy Ann. He walked her weathered decks, looking only to judge their condition and make repairs as needed. Never on the land for very long, he distrusted things on shore. The docks were rough, full of danger, protecting his few worldly possessions, always the observer, watching, learning. He might sip a drink, but was always sober. Yes, he had sampled church-going, listening to the preacher's fire and brimstone. Yes, he had sampled the ladies of the night, but few wanted to talk of life. When the ship was ready to set sail, he was ready to cast off to a new port. His eyes watched the heavens, studying what God and nature would have in store for him, carving little pieces of wood to press the time, or reading a book about life at sea to improve his abilities as a sailor. Then came the crossing, the last crossing. He was at middle age for that age, feeling some aches and pains without working for them. The dawn never came, the night disappeared, and a great gray surrounded them. Waves became restless, and the wind took over. All hands were called on deck to make ready. A storm had caught them and wasn't letting go. Ropes were rigged to be held when needed. Cargo tied down, hatches secured. Everything was made ready. The battle lines drawn, the troops were engaged. Keeping the ship into the wind became the primary chore. Waves now towered over the Cathy Ann, crashing head-on or washing sideways across the deck. Lightning joined the battle, and with pelting rain, the ship was lifted high like a feather and then dropped like a brick. The crew pumped water from below decks as they dodged crates torn free. A bolt from Zeus split the main mast and toppled it. Man overboard! The wheel spun freely. No two men could hold her steady. Darkness climbed into the thoughts of all aboard. The lonesome sailor did all he knew how, but it did no good. He was outnumbered. Each wave took a toll on the Cathy Ann. Her heart was ripped away in pieces, and so too that of the crew. She broke apart in the middle of the North Atlantic. When the sky cleared and the waters calmed, there was life only under the water. Hardy men had been dragged below the surface. Nothing will ever reach shore, but never fear. The love affair continues between the Cathy Ann and her lonesome sailor. Sometimes you do something to comfort you.
Moonlight lullaby. Hush now, little one. Come climb into the night. Follow moonbeams to the stars. Ride the wind across the skies. Your day is done, my son. Close your eyes, my princess. Listen to the quiet sounds. Hold your teddy friend close. Don't be afraid of the darkness, of monsters hiding under the doors. Think of the busy days you've been, and tonight you will dream. See all the unicorns prancing in the fields of flowers, all colors. Tomorrow you will run and laugh and roll in the sun. There will be bubbles and butterflies, bugs and friends, and new things to find. Pick up a stick. It is a sword, a baseball bat. Sing a song of silly things. Rest now, just a minute till morning. Close your eyes to see what's in your heart. Those shadows are your friends. They tell stories with happy endings. Shh. Do you hear the sound? Put your hand here on your chest. Feel the life in you. Now slow down. Quiet. Music caught in spiders' webs, spinning notes to make you beautiful and brave. Think of trucks and crayons, chocolate, mashed potatoes, no vegetables tonight. Feel the night breeze through the window and hear crickets sound and birds snoring. In winter, the window is closed so it doesn't snow on your toes. Think of the circus with all the animals, or the parade with drums beating and trumpets. Remember the trumpets. All that will come back another day. Still now wait before you sleep. Please give me a smile or two. No, Mommy and I love you. We love you. And good night.
You get to the last verse, and the perfect ending appears.
Wren or a sparrow. I figure I'm a wren or a sparrow, certainly not a cardinal or a junco. I confess, like many, to a little peacock. And I'm more dove than hawk, but basically I'm a wren or a sparrow. Now, I'm proud of my eagle and like to think a mischievous jay or mockingbird is part of me. Certainly not a dirty old pigeon. No, just your basic wren or sparrow. I smile at a strutting cockatoo and question the wisdom of an owl. I wonder at the grace of a gull on the wind or the anger of the swan and goose. It's just me, you see, your everyday wren or sparrow. And if I have to choose, I'll have to leave the wren behind, for God has his eye on the sparrow.
My favorite type of poetry or prose is when I can create a person. Usually they're a mix of someone real, a little bit, mixed with a good deal of fiction to make them more three-dimensional. Then I put them in a mixed location, real except for tell the story as if it were real. Meet Rufus.
Rufus. Welcome to my town. Any town. Any town that is not in a race with a natural, comfortable, sort of slow pace, big enough for a green and a gazebo, surrounded by farmland, and populated with old family names added to some newcomers, those that have only been here a decade or two. I wouldn't say everybody knows everybody, but everybody knows about everybody. The roads that leave and enter town must connect to another road, and that leads to a main road. News moves fast around town, however, news is slow to come into town. Progress and change are almost never embraced. Television and the internet do intrude only if it is actively pursued. We have a church or three, and they fill up pretty good on Sunday. There are a few stores around the green, as well as some big old houses. There are seasons, holidays, and ball games, a library, a volunteer fire department, and summer concerts. People come to town for special events, and of course to get supplies and groceries. 2 gas stations keep the cars running. There is a mayor and a small government. We also have a movie theater, but it is safe to say we are behind the times. Just off the green, we have a restaurant and 2, if you're generous, bars. Growing up here, you have several options. Be part of an and son business, There are 2 small factories, well hidden, that provide fallback employment. Start a new business, not an easy task. Go away to college. We have 2 grammars and 1 high school. Stay away after graduation and join the rest of the world, or come back to the town's womb. So it was one day, as I headed past the far side of the green, headed to the newspaper office my grandfather had begun. It was a well-worn rectangle of a building and sat at the northwest corner of the green. It had 4 full-time employees who looked out big windows in the front. They watched the world go by, past the backside of the gold lettering announcing The Bugle. It was a weekly, with local youngsters providing delivery. My grandfather was gone. My dad now just a concerned visitor. The Bugle was mine to run, and I kept it simple. We reported local news and ran local ads. I wrote an editorial with dedication and concern. The ball scores are there with the name spelled right. Society news is provided, births, deaths, even a police blotter listing who had trouble getting home Saturday night. Just before I got to the office, I saw Rufus sitting on his usual bench. You took it for granted that he would be there any day it wasn't raining or snowing or bitterly cold. Rufus would be neatly dressed, sitting on his bench. He lived in a room or 2 in a house a block from the green, and for God knows how long has populated the green. I don't know why old Rufus passes his days on the bench. I don't know how old Rufus is, but it is safe to say he has outlived his contemporaries. I've seen him reading our paper or a book. Still, mainly, he watches the world go by. He will nod greetings to a passerby, talk about the weather if you engage him. Yet I feel is most comfortable lost deep in his mysterious past. It seems that he started sitting on the bench when he came home from a war, or perhaps it was way after that. All those years ago, other veterans joined him. They were always old, perhaps because of the war. On patriotic holidays, they would wear a snatch of a uniform. As parades marched by, they would stand and salute as flags passed, and they would smile and answer the salutes of younger soldiers. I wonder why they were never asked to ride in the parades, but they didn't seem to be bothered by the slight. They would sit together and talk of past battles, their war and their different experiences. I was never close enough to hear the stories, so I'm not sure if they became fishermen's tales or old men reliving the most important time of their lives and then coming back the next day to do it again. Slowly the bench emptied as the seasons rolled over until Rufus sat alone watching the world. I have thought off and on about doing a story about him, not knowing if he would consent to an interview. I have hesitated, not wanting to spoil a tradition. His presence is an anchor to many people's days. We all know his name, my father told me, but he knew basically only that. Had he grown up in town? Was he ever married? Did he have children? What happened to them? What else had he done in his life? How old is he? Is he living on a pension? What has he seen all these years? Time again had passed, and I see Rufus rising to his routine, walking, showering, shaving, dressing in shirt and trousers way out of fashion, a jacket, coat, or shirt sleeves, depending, of course, on the season. A slow walk. He uses a walking stick. And there he is, settling onto the bench. Finally, one summer day at noontime, I wandered out of the office with my brown bag. I walked across the street to the green and with some hesitation sat on the shaded bench. Here I am, next to Rufus. "Hello," I mumble. "Nice day." "Yes, it is, Randall," answers a dry voice. He knows my name, and I am lost. There's an awkward moment here while I try to assemble my wits. Rufus speaks. I enjoyed your editorial last week. He gives me no quarter, but does give me an opening. Thank you. Can I offer you half a tuna sandwich? Rufus smiles at the world straight ahead of him. No, thank you, but it was nice of you to offer. Rufus, can I ask you some questions? I blurted out. There was no pause. There was a gaping hole. Finally, he asked the air in front of him, why? My turn to collect my thoughts. Because for no other reason than I'm curious. For years I've seen you here and I'd love to get some background. Frankly, I'm just plain nosy. Your life is a mystery I'd like to solve. These pregnant pauses were now the way of things, the conversation of one who is not used to conversation, and because I knew this, I was not anxious. For the paper was his next concern. I don't know, maybe, but not without your permission. He looked at me for a moment, giving no clue of his feelings, then back away to whatever he saw in front of him. A car drove slowly by, and he returned to wave. Ask your questions, and then we'll decide. Here I was with all those simple questions about to begin an interview I hadn't planned on. I had no notebook, no recording device, but I didn't think I'd forget his answers, and if I did, I would know where he was. If a follow-up was needed, or a little bit of color, I decided to keep it simple and see where that led. Did you grow up in town? Rufus measured his responses. Yes, just out of town, on a farm on Webster Road. A farm boy who had come to town. Were you ever married? Somehow he didn't expect this question. I can see his face telling me the answer, but what comes out is yes. I think it best to leave that alone. Did you have any children? This time he is expecting the natural follow-up. Without emotions, he answered, 2, a boy and a girl. Not giving me a break on this, I was forced to ask the next logical question. What happened to them? There was an angry silence. I was waiting to be thrown off the bench, to be told to mind my own business, to not disrupt the orderly life Rufus led. Instead, I got a choked answer to my question. My wife and daughter were killed by a drunk driver, hit head-on by a man going the wrong way on a one-way street. He survived so drunk he was not aware of what he had done. My son was killed in a park in New York City for loose change. It was time for me to watch whatever was in front of me. Whatever it was, I did not see it. I saw Rufus standing alone in the world, his life, all that mattered, taken away from him. I'd instinctively reached out for his hand when he shared the nakedness of his life. I believe he was embarrassed by the gesture, but did not move his hand away. When I had recovered enough to speak, I asked what he had done in life. He sort of chuckled at our segue back to today. I left the farm, joined the army, survived a war. Then I started a business, and it was successful. I was offered a huge amount of money for it. I sold it and returned home. The farm was gone, and the family too. Well, that answered the money question without asking. So I combined the last 2 questions. Do you mind me asking how old you are and what you have seen from this bench all these years? Again, the weight. As Rufus shuffled a bit on the bench, he looked as if he was about to answer, but then thought he required a bit more time. Putting his weight on his arms, he lifted himself up in the air. He swung his legs back and forth like a kid on a swing. Then he settled down on the bench. I am older than a lifetime, certainly. If you must attach a number, I'm in my 90s. I have lived my life, and from this bench, seen others head in many directions. I've seen people like you grow and mature and fall into a full and comfortable life. He paused a second and then continued. I have watched men and women in this town start a life or leave to begin somewhere else. My life was gone on a highway and in a park. But coming back here has meant a lot. I was able to see others continue on to a full life, a life of love, faith, and friendship, and I felt all of that from this bench. That was it. I had no more questions worth asking. No more questions, that is, save one. And Rufus gave me that answer straight out. I realize I'm sort of a town character, but I think I would prefer you holding your story. Would you mind not telling it until this bench is empty? I told him I would do as he wished and finished my lunch and then went back to the office. It is roughly 3 years since that interview, and as I came to work this fine summer day, Rufus was not sitting on the bench. I checked with the hospital, and they confirmed my fears. Rufus had been found dead in his room. He had apparently died suddenly as he was preparing to start his day, walking slowly to take his spot on his bench.
Something for a youngster and maybe some eavesdropping adults.
Agnes, the angry raindrop. Agnes sat on her cloud with a big frown on her face. She was and is a very angry raindrop. Originally, she thought she'd be part of a spring shower, helping the bulbs and sea start to grow. But apparently her grades are not good enough. So she studied harder in hoping to become a part of a gentler summer rain. To help the flowers grow and the grasses stay green. Not to be, she thought. She thought she was being punished. As hard as she studied, nothing would be right. Cousins and uncles jumped in the fray, and the yards and fields were lush. Color was at its best, crops grew, fruit ripened, and Agnes just got more frustrated and even angrier. She blamed her parents, her teachers, her friends, everyone and everything but herself. Well, this didn't help, not at all. Now her parents and her teachers and her friends were mad and disappointed at her. Agnes didn't care what others thought. She was ready to fall to earth. Instead, because she was so bad, because she talked back to her parents, because she didn't do her homework and played nasty tricks on her friends. She got to go to bed early without supper, stand in the corner with timeouts, do extra homework, and eat alone at lunchtime. Write her name on the blackboard over and over and over, maybe 1,000,000 billion times, and promise to never do this again or that again. But she did. This was wrong, very, very wrong. But Agnes couldn't stop being mad. She didn't know why or how to stop. Late one night, feeling hopeless, she began to cry. I didn't know raindrops could cry. Did you? Yup, little teeny weeny mini tears slid down her raindrop cheeks. All the sadness of all the weeks leaked out. Gulping sobs of not understanding. Things felt like they were crashing in on her. She wished she would just evaporate. Her parents rushed into the bedroom and held her tight. They loved her dearly in spite of all Agnes has done. How sad and angry she had become being left behind. She had tried to study more, but it seemed to fall apart. Her parents listened and worked to calm her down. Finally, her dad said something very silly and made her smile. Once she was listening to what her parents said, it sort of made sense, most of it. Agnes asked some questions, and all three found some answers. The three of them talked to Agnes's teachers, and a plan was put in place. If Agnes behaved herself and worked extra hard, Agnes baked cookies and made little gifts for her friends. Then one by one, she visited them and apologized for being mean. Most of them forgave her right away, happy to be friends again. For others, it took a bit longer, but they forgave her too. The teachers explained how Agnes could still be a happy raindrop. She was told to start to gather all the autumn colors just before trees would let go of their leaves. Agnes would sneak out in and soak up the yellows, then the oranges, then the late showing reds, blending them all along with steadier colors. She put them in a special pouch that she carried always. Next, she started taking dancing lessons and taking walks on cold mountain tops. Finally, at last, just in time for winter, Agnes joined her friends on a very dark cloud. The cloud started moving in a northeast wind, heading north as life slid into winter. The next day, the cloud hung over a cozy little village, and the people in the village stood around a tall green pine tree. Yes, right in the center of the town, and the smoke was curling up from all the chimneys. The people were singing. It took a minute or two, but Agnes and the others finally made out the words. They were about a baby who was born. You know who, don't you? It's his birthday. And this was a song about him, a thanks for coming song. The music was the most beautiful thing Agnes had heard, and she finally knew it was time, her time. Off the cloud she pushed into the sky, and the others followed her, and because it was so cold, they instantly turned into snowflakes, no two alike. But Agnes was something special. She had her special pouch with all the colors with her, and as she and the others danced across the skies, Agnes released some of her colors a little bit at a time. It turns out she was a very good dancer, and as she spun and swirled, she blended the colors. The snowflakes gently fell to the village, covering the ground, the roofs, the trees, and of course, one snowflake for the tip of everyone's nose. Agnes kept floating up and around, this way and that, and she was able to make the most beautiful snowflake rainbow just above the tree. With everyone around, the rainbow slowly slid onto the tree, totally wrapping it in all those colors. On the tips of the branches, other special raindrops fell, glistening around the snowflakes. They reflected the colors, and each branch sparkled. All this mixed into their hearts of all those around the tree. Their voices became stronger, louder, clearer, and I know for a fact, somewhere in this world, Agnes is very happily wrapping her rainbow around a special tree. People will celebrate around them, and their happiness is forever.
Planning this program, I picked 35 pieces to read. Reality sunk in that you guys didn't bring your sleeping bags. And so we cut it down to 20 and then to 18, and it was still going long. So the program has, in the valley we will rally, but we're not going there. We're moving on to when someone is shy, they can turn to poetry to speak of their love. The words that falter at their lips can still reach their heart of their beloved.
You are there. You are there. I am here. There is a space between us. To bridge the gap, we smile, we talk, we shake each other's hand. From there, we talk, we touch some more. We put a candle between us. We talk and eat and laugh. We do this over time. You are there. I am here. We close that space between us with kisses, touching, enormous hugs. This continues for a time. There is no space between us. I am yours. You are mine.
Take a real event and alter it to make it your story, or combine two different experiences and wrap it in a backstory to pull at your heart.
I sat at a back table in the small cabaret. It was a Friday night after a hard week, and I was treating myself to a night on the town. The reason I was here sat at a beat-up baby grand. She was doing a final sound check before showtime. To say things were informal would be an understatement. The club was the bottom step of the nightclub world, the next step down being a dive bar, or a bar with a piano player. I watched her with hesitation years ago when at the top of her game, this singer, this entertainer, Madeline Rogers by name, had brought a night alive for my wife and me. She was the complete entertainer, piano player, singer, joke teller, and storyteller. She took over a room, and yet she refused to fit in. There was no set list of songs. She matched the night to those in the room. She was not background entertainment. She demanded the spotlight, but she kept it low. She would talk to those near her and pull requests from those conversations. Years had passed. My wife had passed. And I wondered if this woman shared my fear of getting old. When I saw her as the advertised entertainer, I was surprised she was still around, and I hesitated. But then curiosity won out. She was not introduced. A light was simply switched on, and she began to play. Keys were firmly struck on the intro to a jazz standard, and I picked up my drink and moved closer. As she played and then began to sing, she studied the audience. Her voice was a little huskier and not quite as strong, but the feeling she gave to lyrics and the piano arrangement quickly reeled you into her circle. Her face was lined with age and nights and whatever was in that glass on the edge of the piano. The first song ended to polite applause, but she didn't stop playing. Once in a while, she watched her fingers on the keyboard as if detached and wondering how they remembered what notes to play. The songs were independent. There was no theme, and the tempos varied. Some were touched with humor, and others brought people to a moving silence. Couples moved closer to each other, and the applause grew louder or was sometimes forgotten. It was about a half hour into the set when I looked up from my second drink and saw her looking at me, staring at me. There was a quick smile, and then a shadow crossed her face. She quietly began the next tune, and then the words began soft and building. My hand began to shake. I set the glass on the table and steadied it with my other hand. Her voice, now full and strong, belying her years with emotion and strength, the words and the music tore across the room and took my heart. Tears fell from my eyes. It was the song my wife and I had requested all those years ago. How could she know? How could she remember? I looked up, holding back sobs. She nodded to me. I felt her sympathy, and then the warmth of the memory of the last time I heard her sing.
This poem was written on December 15th, 2012, after the events in Newtown, Connecticut, Sandy Hook. Sadly, it needs to be rewritten for similar stories before and after that tragic day.
"20 shadows. In a dozen years, a prayer will be said. The graduating class will be smaller, smaller than last year's, smaller than next year's. Some of those walking, diploma in hand, will have missed some nurturing. The smiling foundation to their education. Out the door, the graduates fly, off to college, off to work, a firm grip on their future, or a continued search of life journey. But those 20 shadows will hang back undiscovered. They were to be veterans in wars still to be fought. They were bankers, investors, the next generation of school teachers, mechanics, housewives, shopkeepers, fathers and mothers who would be raising their children soon. They would have been firemen, garbage men, nurses, doctors, president of the United States. Those jobs they wanted at their age. They might not be sure what mommy and daddy did, but they still loved them. And those parents are left alone, finally left alone for years, for their lives, arms empty. The siblings might not understand, and nothing they can do will fill the space of those empty arms. And children who might come later may be asterisks to their family life. Those 20 shadows, forever innocent. Now the world's grief is fresh. Their final resting will be disturbed by the sobs of the family, by the tears of most beings. The medias will cover the family, the funerals. The first responders, reporters will move on, replaced by second string, who will continue to report. And our TV screens will be full of teddy bears and candles, of black and all that attend. Next year, there will be a follow-up. And the year after, someone will remember perhaps a pink rose and Hot Wheels, perched on the cold December granite. But for most, another tragedy, something as horrific, or God help us, something worse, will tear at our hearts and pull down tears down our cheeks, leaving us hopeless once more, searching the why. 20 shadows, always smiling, always laughing, suddenly alone.
I'm stalling. It's not easy to knowingly make a fool of oneself, and yet that is what this next piece is destined to do. I can't sing a note on key, but that doesn't stop me from wanting to sing or write a song. When I sit in the back corner of this room next to the Sanfords, that stained glass window there, I stand to sing the hymn, for better or worse. I see no point in lip syncing. I'm here, I sing. I am, however, a lagger. I sing a half note behind the rest, not sure of the tune or me finding the appropriate note. I know how to sing the notes below the staff. That's where my voice belongs. And at Christmas time, when I remember the words, I'm do a decent job with "O Come All Ye Faithful," but that's about it. If there is a lady standing next to me or in front of me before the next hymn, she will have spotted her firstborn on the other side of the sanctuary and relocated to their side. In the bloom of early marriage and not much money, my wife would sit at the Magnus organ at the foot of the stairs and play as I belted out the songs I wish I could sing. Some enchanted evening, Maria, I believe, and of course, Old Man River. My two kids were trapped upstairs, would shrink away from the clatter below and hide in the extreme opposite side of the house, pillows over heads or earphones in place. I can tell you in 3 notes, Johnny Mathis, chances are. In a few notes, Frank Sinatra, Lonesome Road. Still, I don't sing in the shower. Here now, yet another attempt, and I'm bringing you along. Set the scene. Small town, Southwest, maybe Texas. Rural, barn dance, VFW hall, bar, small stage, maybe a big Texas flag behind it, a bunch of local musicians on a little platform, fiddlers and the like, and they play pretty well. It's Saturday night. Everybody knows everybody. Time to let your hair down. A hard week in the fields at your jobs. Time to have some fun, catch up on the gossip. I hope you're with me because I'd like you to help me. Oh, Lord, not a sing-along. Yep. My reasoning is it has to be better than me doing it alone. Now, you're next to friends, loved ones, strangers. No one will tell. No one will care. Remember the setting. Now, if you look at your program, if you have one, the chorus, and that's where I need your help, is printed there under Women, Whiskey, and Me, and you'll see chorus and then the words. And it goes something like this. Women, whiskey, and me. Why does it always happen this way? Lord, Lord, I don't think I'll ever be free. Put a twang in it, helps. That's it, but don't forget where you are. You take your voice into the cellar and let it go. And in between the chorus, I'll tell you a little story, 6 lines at a time. Now, can we try it once before we start, please? Ready? Women, whiskey, and me. Why does it always happen this way? Lord, Lord, I'll never be free. Now we start. And it starts with a chorus. So the name of the piece is Women, Whiskey, and Me. And the chorus goes, ladies and gentlemen, women, whiskey, and me. Why does it always happen this way? Lord, Lord, I don't think I'll ever be free. It was just a regular Saturday night. I went to a dance to wash away the week. And there you were, looking at me, hair falling down pretty like, a smile brighter than the sun, eyes so blue I didn't know what to do. Women, whiskey, and me. Why does it always happen this way? Lord, Lord, I don't think I'll ever be free. Well, I dragged across the floor a magnet-attracted moth to light. You were just such a pretty sight. My words were all tangled and stale. A fool stood before you. It was so early that night. Women, whiskey, and me. Why does it always happen this way? Lord, Lord, I don't think I'll ever be free. You put a finger to my lips, gave me a push onto the floor, couples moving in and out, music so loud, people all about. There you were before me, and suddenly we were alone. Women, whiskey, and me. Why does it always happen this way? Lord, Lord, I don't think I'll ever be free. We are close but still apart. You move some things, I answer. Our conversation has begun. Arms and feet ask questions, tell stories. I catch you watching me. I say, come closer. You don't hesitate. Women, whiskey, and me. Why does it always happen this way? Lord, Lord, I don't think I'll ever be free. Suddenly the music slows. Some people clear the floor. We move to the shadows on the edge. Heads fall over shoulders. Hands are free to move wherever. The night is moving on. Women, whiskey, and me. Why does it always happen this way? Lord, Lord, I don't think I'll ever be free. The music jumps up again. You and me move off the floor, keep moving toward the door, looking for darkness, anxious now. Alone together, there is an introduction, moving without music, hungry like. Women, whiskey, and me. Why does it always happen this way? Lord, Lord, I don't think I'll ever be free. Things slow down. A smile between us. We straighten out and move back in. I point to the dance floor, and, well, you gently point to a table. We sit and we talk and we laugh. Just two people learning who's who. Women, whiskey, and me. Why does it always happen this way? Lord, Lord, I don't think I'll ever be free. It's good night, ladies. The lights flicker. Phone numbers are exchanged. Date here next Saturday night. We amble out into the parking lot. A kiss goodnight that says tomorrow. I miss her before she's gone. Women, whiskey, and me. Why does it always happen this way? Lord, Lord, I don't think I'll ever be free. Okay. Bad transition here. When I got the title in place, out came a poem which surprised me and moved me. It is one of my favorites.
I step away and around and move on. A man lies on the sidewalk, his piece of cardboard a mattress, possessions bundled behind him. I step away, around, and move on. In my town, we don't have these things. Well, maybe I just don't see these things. I'm going here to there, so I step away, around, and move on. I see a man sleep in the daylight. I'm not comfortable, somewhat frightened. He hasn't threatened me. Still, I step away and around and move on. Do I know his history? What blows life and society has struck? What wars has he fought? Forget it. I step away and around and move on. Has he been cast on the street, released from somewhere, or just down on his luck? Or has he chosen this? I don't know. I step away and around and move on. If he were awake, would he speak? Would he tell me his tale or lie for a buck? Is he drunk? Is he crazy? I step away and around and move on. What battles are inside his head? Why am I more suspicious than compassionate? If he asked me, what would I say? I step away and around and move on. Does he sleep in the day to survive at night? Is he really tough or really scared? If I reached to him, would I be hurt? I step away and around and move on. Do I thank God I'm not him and yet ignore God by passing him by? I am disappointed in me because I step away and around and move on.
Perhaps you can figure out my take on politicians. This was written in 2009. It's called Politics Jingle. Hi, how do you do? I'm for you. See my wife, see my kids? I fought in wars. I'm red, white, and blue. Give to me, I'll do for you. Hurry up, it's November after next. Never mind the text. It says, I'm for you. I'll give you that. I'll give you this. Here, let me give that baby a kiss. I'm against war. Here's my Purple Heart, but not that war. We have to prove a point, reestablish our power. Give him this, give him that. See my new gun, rat-a-tat-tat. I hear you. I know your concerns. Support me, work for me. Give me money to fight the evil. One for you, two for me. Fix my house, I'll fix, you know that. My party's right, that's why you belong. Don't let them scare you, you know they're wrong. Red, white, and blue, Lincoln too. You hear my words. Did I say that? Let me clarify that. I'll run on my record. What record? I love America, don't you? I know best. Let me take care of the rest. Give me your financial support to stop them from ruining the government, the environment, the economy. Let's jail them all. Set them free. One for you, two for me. Cut and drill, give to them, but don't take away from me. I didn't know. Pay no attention to that. I said this, I said that. Here's some money. Don't grow that. What? We're running low? Print some more. Don't let them in the door. Can I take the floor? I love this country. Where else can you say what you want? Do you hear what he said? When he was in high school, he wore red. And she burned this and that. I'm not kidding. I'll have none of that. I'll make you a judge, an ambassador, assistant to an assistant at a lot a year. But you stay home. Just slip me some. What's some? What are you talking about? I have my rights. I straddle the fence. I'm for you. Vote for me. Need a ride? I'll take you for one. We need guns for everyone. We'll teach you to shoot, and when you're done, we'll send you where there. Hell, there's a war to be won. I'm sorry, a peace to be won. And then we'll have some fun. My wife can smile, she has a cause. We're just not sure which one because the wind blows left, the wind blows right. And I'm ready for a fight. I have the experience. Give me two and I'll tax you one. I've done this, I've done that. You didn't hear it from me, but he's a rat. Hey, good buddy, let me shake hands with you. What are your concerns? I'm listening to your every word. How do you do? My hair is white and neat. I can roll up my sleeves and wear your union jacket. Just let me step out of my limo. Do you believe the price of gas? It's his fault, you know, what he did, what he left undone. Here's one for you, I'll take two. I love this country. Every man, woman, and child, green, purple, or blue, have their rights and futures bright. We'll have food, jobs, retirement, the world's respect, flags flying just for me and you. Sing the song of freedom, pave the road to happiness, fill the potholes, fill my pockets. It's great to be an American. One for you, two for me, the home of the brave, the land of the free. This one's another awkward transition. Life is not always kind, and sometimes you need to write words you cannot say. Even giving voice to the words does not make the hurt go away. It does go out there for others who are dealing with the same trauma. Maybe it helps.
The robber, the thief. The flood of fear is held in check by such fragile gates. A sudden pain, an unknown feeling freezes the mind from reality. A single thought breaks down the walls and numbs the heart. Where is the robber, the thief? Is he back again? An event, an occasion, something we've looked forward to is reached with relief. There is no great joy. It's over with little satisfaction, just the "we got through it" resignation. Focus forward to the next. This robber, this thief, hides behind our mind. The milestones are reached by day, by night, each little step to try and recover, a task, a source of independence, with the time, the tender time, the unexpected time passing. The robber, the thief, lurks ahead of the checkups. Fun and laughter come from the unexpected, from the out of the ordinary, the spontaneous moment, the silly little thing, the "what did he say" thing, the head cocked to the side smile, the nod of understanding. But this robber, this thief, crumbles our daily bread. As partner and witness, I watch mountains climbed. Each day is not a success. Some are gray, but pointed toward cards tonight or vacation in the fall. She fights daily. She works for life's sunrise. We wait each day for the capture and execution of this robber, this thief.
This dialogue takes place in the 1860s, but the opportunity was there for the times of war before and after the Civil War. It's called When Johnny Came Home.
How long has it been?
Been a while.
What did you see?
More than I wanted, don't want to say.
Come on, we've been through a lot right here at home.
Oh, I know that, I appreciate that, still.
We was there when you marched out of town, all of you proud, marching with flag and drum, dust rising with gun on shoulder. We cheered you all. Why, I even sung.
It was a fine send-off, and our chest was bursting right out of them new blue uniforms.
Can't you just tell us a little bit of what went on? And where's all the rest?
I'm it, the only one left.
No, that can't be. There must be more of you, maybe just around the bend.
I wish it were so, but it's not to be. I see all their faces, every one of them. I see them the day we left here, the 20 of us joining the old 25th. We fell into the ranks and stayed in step, right happy to be helping Uncle Abe.
Yeah, I remember the sun shining off those bayonets and the officers on horseback keeping the line moving.
We left here in that big parade, figuring we'd do a little training, be off to war and back again the end of summer, or Christmas at the latest.
Yeah, that's what they said when the word came down from the Capitol. Sign up for 3, 6, or 9 months. That's what Senator Blackwell said.
Yeah, that's what Blackwell said. They made him a colonel with his beautiful black horse and special sword. He even had feathers in his hat.
Is he back at the Capitol?
No, he's lying under that big black horse on a hill in Pennsylvania. I saw him there, sword drawn, staring at me from the ground. I seen his unblinking eyes staring at me from the ground.
He's dead. Sorry to hear that. Tell me about the others.
I see them. I see them every night, each one of them. I see them happy and laughing as we marched out of town, pulling tricks on one another at night as we pitched our tents and ate by the fire. We marched a long way, and those smiles slipped away. We asked where we going to an officer, and he said, "To war, boys! Where'd you think you were going?" And we had one old ugly sergeant from Massachusetts who kept an eye on us. He told us of what war would be like and how to take care of ourselves, our equipment, and especially our feet. We practiced charging forward and with fixed bayonets, yelling and screaming and staying in line. Most of us thought we were just a silly game. We marched day and night, clear into Pennsylvania, and nary a shot was fired. We was given food by nice people along the way. They wished us well, but we couldn't stop. We kept marching mile after mile. The people would yell out names and where they was from, and tell us to tell our people that they sensed their love. We waved back, but we really couldn't make out all that they were saying.
But you did fight, didn't you? I mean, our boys didn't just fall off the end of the world.
Oh, yeah. We fought in a place called Gettysburg. It seems like we sort of bumped into Johnny Reb right there in the middle of nowhere. People was running in one direction, then another, and we was right there. We marched into camp. They told us to drop our stuff except in our rifles, powder, and bullets, and off we went.
That fast?
That fast. We came out in an open in some sort of a peach orchard. We lost 3 boys right there before we got any good distance. We went back and forth till it finally got dark, and we moved back to the campground, but I don't think any of us slept a wink thinking about our friends lying out there with their faces in the ground. We were told that men from both sides were allowed out there to clear away the dead. Still, there were no smiles, no joking. Each man was deep in thought and prayer. It was a long night, and then 2 more days and nights of hell. The second night, we was around the campfire eating, and Ben Atwater, he got up and he went to the fire. He was after some more beans. Well, a shot rung out, and Ben, he just crumpled to the ground. He had a hole in his head, and some of his brains were spilling on his plate. A sniper had snuck up close and climbed a tree. We spotted him, and we shot him many times, and then we just left him hanging there dead in the tree.
How could it happen? I thought we could beat them Rebs.
I don't know. They fight hard, we fight hard. A dead soldier, whether he's dressed in blue or gray, is already dead. is still dead. I'm not sure all of the officers or on either side knows what they're doing, but most of them are right there out fighting and dying with us.
How did that thing end?
Well, old Robert E. Lee, he snuck out of there and took what was left of his army and headed south. And we stayed there and reorganized and took care of the wounded before heading out. I found out I was alone and all the rest was gone.
All the rest.
Yeah. And each day I was there, I was praying to make it till dark. But when it was dark, I saw them faces dead or dying in pain, with doctors operating in tents and orderlies piling arms and legs outside the tent and to be buried later. I would wake with a start, feeling a dead man's hand on my shoulder and hearing the cries of the wounded as we crossed the battlefield. And finally they said I could come home. Here I am. But somehow I have 19 stories to tell, and none are going to be happy endings. And no mother, father, wife, no sister, brother, or child will look at me with anything but contempt. Why am I standing there and not their kin? Every day I walk through town, people will be staring at me. I might as well be Jefferson Davis himself. I don't like being the messenger of death. I mean, I may leave town and there'll be no parade. This is a recent poem, some ground I have covered before, but the ending took time trying to create the proper tone that I wanted.
Wednesday's wishes. Mabel Ann had her Wednesday's wishes. They were the same as her Tuesday's wishes, her Monday's wishes, her last week's wishes, her last month's wishes, and none came true. They were simple wishes, gentle wishes. She wished the kids at school would not bully her. Mabel Ann had just 2 dresses. Her shoes were brown hand-me-downs. The shoes were held together with tape and glue. Her dresses clean, but well worn. Mabel Ann was quiet, and that combination made her ripe for teasing and ridicule. Home was far from a refuge or a safe haven. Her father drank and was always drunk. He beat her mother when he was home and made Mabel Ann uncomfortable with his stares. Her mother worked 2 jobs to keep the family afloat. She left some money visible and stashed the rest away. Her father grabbed the money as if deserving. Then he would start his eternal litany. Everything was unfair. His last boss, he had none now. His parents, the government, God, all unfair. Nobody understood him, especially his wife, and after a short build-up, he rewarded her. Well practiced, he would hit fast, hit or kick where it wouldn't show. She did not resist. She protested some. First and foremost, she made sure Mabel Ann was safe. His energy spent, he would wander off somewhere to collapse or out the door. The garbled tirade would wind down. He was still the victim, leaving others fallen in his path. You were an object of his scorn if he perceived you were smarter than him, had a job, made a suggestion, didn't agree with him, if he remembered his point. His family left to recover forgive, exist near him. Mabel Ann's mom would not discuss it or hear ill words about him. She would use the kitchen counter to help her stand. She would dab a cut lip or pause to survive a wave of pain. She would tell her daughter it wasn't his fault. Schoolwork was her escape, her solace. Buried in homework, consumed by reading, the world inside her head was how she survived. And yes, she still had an imagination functioning. She had no friends, no cousins, aunts, or uncles. That is, none that would acknowledge the relationship. Her grandparents, those surviving, disowned their children, hardened by the disappointment of their son or son-in-law. Her room was her cocoon, her sanctuary. But she left little in the open, nothing showing, fearing some fatherly rage would pull posters from the walls, smash trinkets on the table or a shelf, leaving shards of memories vibrating. There was another place for Mabel Ann. Her mother brought her to church every Sunday for years. Even if she had to work, she would see that she got there. Mabel Ann's church, her place to feel part of another world. From the beginning, she loved Sunday school, the stories, the peace. Some of the same kids from school were there too, but without their numbers, and in these surroundings, they left her alone, and one or two even talked to her. She loved the building, full or empty. It was a place of joy and celebration, or a place to hold sorrow and grief. It was a community within a community. When she was young, she was able to listen. As she grew older, she would understand more. The minister took little pieces of the Bible and made sure people understood its meaning. And there was the music. The glorious music spilling out of the organ and the mouths of the choir. She joined in with the rest of the congregation, singing hymns of praise and adoration. As she got older, she would spend more time at the church. During the summer, she would help at the church office. There was always a mailing to get out. The sexton would need help setting up chairs and tables. The minister assured Mabel Ann's mom it was no problem. She was very helpful and seemed comfortable here. And that was certainly the truth. She ran errands. She helped the music director organize the choir's music. Her favorite thing to do was to go into the empty sanctuary. There she would sit in her favorite spot. She could see the old trees outside and the cross inside. Inside her head and inside her heart, she grew. The more mature Mabel Ann took her Wednesday's wishes and then turned them into adult thoughts. From there, she was able to see what was important. Those feelings turned into Mabel Ann's prayers. One late afternoon, she was alone, sitting peacefully in the sanctuary, and something inside her stirred, moved. Not physically, but it was a feeling, a strong feeling. She parted her lips, and a sound came from her. It was nothing she planned, not quite a song, soft at first, almost a moan like her mom after she'd been beaten by her father, but there was no pain. It was all escaping. Oh. Still, it was musical, more than a tune, rather a sustained note that grew and gained resonance. Oh. Then the note wandered and became fuller. It reached out in the empty space and claimed it. Each breath pulled meaning from inside her. It almost broke into tears with all its tales. The walls echoed this growing sound. This big voice from the quiet girl flew everywhere. The sexton paused in the hallway. The secretary listened. She got up and moved to the office doorway. The music director quietly entered from the practice room. The minister left his office and moved quickly inside. Mabel Ann felt everything inside her and let it out. All the bullied tears, the anguish from her mother, her love of being here in the church, all that a young girl loves and fears. Nobody had a stopwatch, but it continued. Each new breath carried a new meaning. The sexton put his mop aside and knelt next to his bucket. The secretary was shaking from tears from her soul. The music director could only wonder at the beauty. There was no practical description. It was hypnotic. The minister moved a little farther into the sanctuary. He sat in the nearest pew and prayed. It all peaked. Then it stopped. Mabel Ann was still. She sat back, relieved. Blessed with knowledge not taught in school. This place would be her place.
And this is a bit of a personal poem that was meant to be read in this building, in this sanctuary at First Church, my church. And I was able to do that not long ago. Here it is again. This is God's house. This is God's house. This is my house. Yes, he is everywhere, but this is where we meet. I treasure the quiet time, the first few minutes after I've settled in, as I peel away distractions, pushing things to do after out of the way, clearing trivial thoughts, and starting to take stock. All right. I'm not here every Sunday, but then this is just a building. A beautiful building, treasured, still just a building, a thing. When and where I go to seek peace and understanding, it's all over God's world. It's where I stand. It's next to me. I've come to this place forever since I was a child. Even when I didn't understand all that happens within these four walls. But piece by piece, I pieced it together. It is a school to learn so much. The stories, the ideas, beliefs coming from assorted lips. Most are formally trained, well-versed. Others, friends, neighbors, strangers at first. Peace be with you, and a smile levels the ground and opens your heart. If you're born and raised in a church, you develop strong memories. Changes happen through the years, as does the world around this building. These walls hold life and death stories. God's story and that of his only Son. Year after year, these stories are told, explained, dissected, and celebrated. Downstairs Dedicated Sunday school teachers can be an important step on the journey. The music rolls across the congregation, adds dimension to the stories. And even when I sing, my cracked voice searching for the right notes, well, I'm forgiven if I don't. And I am uplifted if somehow I find the tune. These walls have plaques dedicated to people who have served here. I've known some of these people. I've talked to them. I've prayed with them. These walls serve witness to the birth, a baptism of something new, a reaffirmation during a communion, and then so much more. Perhaps you were married here. A service of love and commitment, two people being a family in front of God's face, promises made to be kept for a lifetime. The life of this church, its blood, are those who come here. Doing good as best they can, learning to be unselfish, not always easy. We seek comfort from these walls and those who preach here. There is comfort for many, there's resolution for some. And sometime we come here for the last time, bringing with us family, friends, and well-wishers as we resume our final journey. Part of that journey is here. Part of us seeps into these walls. It's left there for others. Another layer, another memory. And when we leave here Sunday morning, and when we leave here Christmas night, and when we leave here to dodge the rice, and when we leave here, let the bells ring in celebration, a new week, a new life, a life well lived. Have the organ shake the walls. Let the voices of the choir shiver us. And let us settle into our quiet place, praying, not making deals, finding understanding and love, a peace everlasting. We're done. Thank you.
Thank you all for spending the afternoon with us, and thank you, Dave, for your work over the years. We invite you to have chocolates and conversation as you make your way out into this beautiful afternoon. And you'll see on the back of your program, you have an invitation there to our celebration of our bicentennial of this third meeting house. That's on April 14th. So we would be delighted to see you again, and you'll get to learn about all the little plaques and a little more about the deep history that Dave has shared with us today. So thank you.
But yes, but let's thank Dave one last time for really offering so much meaning for this community.
Thanks for listening. Boy, scared.